folks, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Natasha and I do book things here. Today's video is going to be a Stephen King Sunday. Finally, I know it's been a minute since I've had one of those up on my channel. One of the reasons why I've been sort of putting this video off is because there are a lot of people who are obsessed with the book I'm going to talk about today and go into great detail if you mess up on any of the information given. And because I've read this back a good long while ago, I might forget a little bit of information about it. The book that I am talking about today, as you can tell from the title down below, is going to be The Long Walk by Stephen King. I have two different versions of it, or editions. There's this one right here, and then also I have it in my bind up in the Bachman books, which is the one that I actually read. It is part of the hotter editions that I have all of the beautiful collection of them up here. Realizing I need to put my plant down so you guys can see them properly. So going back to the way I used to film these videos, I'm gonna give you guys some fun facts about the books, just some sort of like, you know, little tidbits about Stephen King when he wrote this, mindset and stuff like that. Go into just a general description and then get into my sort of like spoilery sort of review section and how I felt about this book. Fun fact, I suppose, is that this was Stephen King's first novel that he wrote when he was 18. However, it's not his first published novel. His first published novel, other than short stories and things, was Carrie. At least in my list, that's what I go by as his first published work is Carrie. You know, sent it out to a couple publishers then, and then put it in a drawer and sort of forgot about it. And when he was writing under Richard Bachman, for those of you who are unaware, Stephen King does have a pseudonym. He wrote under Richard Bachman for a long time. He sort of dug The Long Walk out of that and published it under that pseudonym. So it is a work by Stephen King. Richard Bachman is Stephen King, you know. But it was his first novel that he did write, so that is pretty much the most, I guess, significant fun fact about the book. I think it's another fun fact that he dedicated The Long Walk to his English professors in college, which I think is kind of a nice thing to do. Submitted it to a publishing house and got rejected. He admitted that he was just too embarrassed to take it to New York and show it to anybody then. After that he was just sort of crushed by that experience. And I think that's important to know as like a, you know, a new writer, that you're going to deal with rejection. And then even somebody, you know, as big and well known as Stephen King now in his life, and 70 novels or however many novels later, had that bit of a rough start and was embarrassed by one of the first things that he wrote. However, now The Long Walk as a book is recognized as one of the top 100 best books for teens. And so, you know, this book that he wrote when he was a teen ends up being one of the best books for teens. I think it's also important to note that reading The Long Walk, it does not come across as a juvenile piece of fiction. Like, it holds its weight, and even though it is set in a time very different from today, it can still read very much like a modern, contemporary book. I say modern, but more contemporary piece of fiction. So it's definitely still holds its place in 2019. So I think it's worth a read from there. So I will give you guys a bit of a plot synopsis so you know sort of what this book is about if you don't know anything about it. The title, The Long Walk, more or less says the majority of what you need to know. There is a very long walk. The plot does follow contestants. It's teenage boys aged 13 to 18 in this sort of dystopian, totalitarian, there's a word I can't say, America, and they volunteer and are put into a draw, and they are picked for this long walk. So there's 100 of them picked. They can opt out if they want to, but they are sort of drafted and picked to go into this this long walk. So there's 100 of them, and the main goal is that there's going to be one boy standing at the end. And how that one boy comes to be the last one there sort of reveals itself throughout the novel. And so that's the basic premise, is there's 100 boys walking and there's going to be one at the end. That's more or less what you need to know. I feel like this book is less of a horror than it is more of a psychological test, I guess, sort of psychologically based book. It's horrifying but not horror. So I think that's sort of the main the way that, at least that's how I kind of took it, is it's less of a horror, it is horrifying. So The Long Walk was in part inspired by President Kennedy's walk-alongs, is what they used to be called, and it was like encouraging people to get out and walk and be healthy and all that stuff. And Stephen King came up with the idea for this book when he was hitchhiking home in college, so that's another little bit of a fun fact. It's always fun to see like where authors pull their inspiration from and what sort of like pivotal moment inspires that. So it starts off with 100 boys, and they start at the Maine Canada border and they walk south at a predetermined pace, which is 4 miles per hour. When they drop below that, they are given warnings, and it's based on like a 2-minute warning, 60 seconds or 90 seconds, 60 seconds, 30 seconds. It obviously goes more in detail in the book, but they are given those warnings, and then lastly they are shot. There are various rules and things put in place, things that they can't do, can do, shouldn't do. And yeah, so it's left with 1 boy left, and that is the basic premise of The Long Walk. 100 teenage boys, and then there's going to be 1 left at the end, based on walking. A real long walk. So you may be asking why they do this, like why would they want to do this? It's not a mandatory thing. They are picked, but they can turn it down if they choose to. But for a lot of them, it's for reasons like glory, poverty. They are promised a prize at the end by sort of a mysterious figure who organizes this event called the mayor, and they are promised the prize at the end. So what that may be, can be anything they want, and then also money at the end as well. So that is the basic plot. So I'm gonna get into more spoilery things now, so if you guys don't want to be spoiled for anything else that happens in this book, I would suggest cutting it off now, because anything I may say from here on out is going to be possibly spoilers for you. So yeah, hopefully you guys like it. If you guys want a little bit more spoilers, then keep watching, because spoilers are going to happen now. So in the book, we're following the main character, Garrity, and it's kind of a wild look at how you make fast friends. You know, he does sort of become fast friends with a lot of the people that he's walking with and close by, and it's a wild ride from beginning to end, because you're entering in this book knowing that there's going to be 1 boy left in the end, and you're following the main character who you sort of develop a relationship with. You can only hope that in the end it's going to be our main character that is the last one. So even though you're reading that, there is that moment where you feel like, what if it's not him? What if we're following this main character and he's not the one that makes it to the end? And I think that pressure is sort of consistently there throughout the novel. King does a really good job at that. So to me, it's definitely a play off of the war in Vietnam, like getting, I guess, sort of drafted in and making fast friends, watching your friends die in horrible, horrific ways. A lot of people in this book die in horrible ways. Yes, they are shot in the street. 1 boy has a seizure and is, you know, dying in the street and gets shot and killed. Another one has horrific diarrhea. Another one falls, hits their head, and is bleeding out as they continue to walk. It's not pretty, it's not easy to read, but I think it's important to know when we're following our main character that it is just a psychological game. It's very obviously mentally taxing as well as physically. They do have to maintain this pace at 4 miles an hour, which is hard when you're getting really graphic descriptions of how bad their feet are doing, how bad their like whole physical body is just doing this walk. It's hard because, you know, you definitely see death on the page, you definitely see people close by that our main character witnesses dying, but you also get that rumor mill. A certain boy is behind and they hear, yeah, I think so-and-so isn't here, because you gotta keep in mind when he's walking, he can't keep eyes on all, you know, 99 of the other people, of the other boys that are walking as well, right? So you get a little bit of the rumor mill in this too, of people sort of playing other psychological games. It's intense, it's quite intense. I really like it though. The book reads fast for sure. It's page turning because you're constantly, you know, watching that number dwindle down, which is really interesting because in the book, but in the book, The Long Walk is televised. And you kind of go like, well, who's going to be watching this? And you think of all the weird sort of reality TV stuff that we watch nowadays, and I think like, we would probably watch this. We would probably watch something like this. Strange sort of look is like, you know, you're reading it and you're like, who is watching this? Yet I'm the one reading it as it happens like it's almost like you yourself are watching it by reading it. It's an interesting thing to think about. One of the things that sort of bugged me when I was reading this book was, you know, like, where are the parents? Why are they letting these teenage boys do this? Because the age cap off is 18, it's 13 to 18, and that's young, you know, that's young, and it's like, why are the parents letting them do this? And the sad reality for many of them is poverty. There's other reasons why they do sign up, like some of them are young and they're married or they have a kid and they want to take care of their family, but for a lot of them it's money, it's glory, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people are so, you know, proud and stuff to go to war, is for that glory of coming home and being like, okay, like I did this and this is how successful we were. But it's hard in the long walk because there's one person that survives. Like, they know that they're not going to survive all the way to the end, and they can hope. But it's sad because you come to like these characters and you know there's only going to be one at the end. But yeah, it's kind of intense, it's sad, it's good. Do I recommend this? Yeah, absolutely. I completely recommend this book. I think that everybody should read it. It's one of Stephen King's books that, like I said, is not a horror, it's more of a psychological horror, and it's fast. It's really fast paced. It's not like some of his longer works where they're more of a slow burn or anything like that. Like, you're getting what you get, and you're getting in and getting out in this book, and I highly suggest it to everybody. Like I said, you're unsure whether the character you're following is the one that makes it to the end, and I would like for everyone else to sort of experience that and see just how it ends. I'm not going to talk about how it ends either, but yeah, that is my Stephen King Sunday about The Long Walk. This was a fun one, and I think this is one that a lot of people should read. It was quite enjoyable. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below if this is one that you've read, one that you're interested in reading. Did you watch to the end and maybe get a couple of spoilers in there? I don't know. You know what Stephen King's you're interested in, which ones you think I should read. Obviously I'm reading them in order. You guys are gonna get Stephen King Sundays, hopefully more consistently now. So I hope everyone is doing good, and until my next video, I'll talk to all you soon. Bye.